All this trouble over a fat little man in a red suit.
Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast where we examine pop culture franchises of the VHS era and usually improv news stories, but sometimes spend an episode getting all sentimental and nostalgic about the magic of Christmas. Because even though it's become a stressful and commercialized ritual, we still love the Yuletide season, just like the main characters realize at the end of all of our favorite holiday movies, TV, and games. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we were raised by rentals. Mike! Where were you the night that Grandma got run over by a reindeer?
Well, I was walking home to my house Christmas Eve.
Okay. That's a pretty solid alibi. I'll take it. You're free to go.
Woo!
Okay. Well, we were going to get to it later, but now I feel like I have to kick off this episode where we're going to talk a lot about, Christmas and the things that we love about it. And I'll start right there by saying that when I was a kid, when I was I must have been 9 or 10 years old, and every night I would listen to the Elmo and Patsy Christmas album on cassette on the little radio on my nightstand and fall asleep to Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and some of the Christmas classics that they cover, and another song that I'm going to mention later on in the episode. And I love that song when I was a kid, and now as an adult, I have this nostalgic love for it, and I remember it fondly to the point where it's in my Christmas music playlist. I definitely listen to it every time it comes up on shuffle, but only when I'm in the car by myself. Because if I have other people in the car and that comes up on my Christmas shuffle, I'm always like, oh, I fucking hate that song.
Yeah, no, I definitely have several songs like that myself where I love them for nostalgic reasons, but I've heard them far too much. It's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. I think when it comes to movies, I've just moved on. Like, whatever. If I don't like a Christmas movie now, that I'm an adult, whatever. I'm perfectly happy to just watch Christmas Vacation for the 12th time. We don't need to watch all those other ones that I used to watch when I was a kid that don't really hold up over time. But anyway, welcome everybody to the last episode of Raised by Rentals Season 4. It has been an absolute roller coaster, supercharged bullet train speed ride of a season.
Damn right it has.
Man, we have had a lot of amazing episodes that at least I think are amazing, if I do say so myself.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as we do at the end of every season. We're going to have a bit of a recap. We're going to talk about the facts and figures. I'll go through, some interesting pieces of trivia about some of the episodes. And, we'll talk about, which ones we liked, which ones maybe could have been better, whatever. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But we're going to start first by capping off season 4 and capping off the 2025 holiday season with a thematic follow-up to last season's We Love Halloween and Halloween Loves Us Back Super Gushers episode. So instead of Halloween, we are, of course, here to talk about why we love Christmas.
Merry Christmas, motherfuckers.
And God bless us, everyone, bitches. Oh, man.
Nice.
So, Mike, tell me, why is Christmas your favorite holiday? I know that it is, but you can tell us all why.
Yeah, it's funny because okay, I know everyone assumes Halloween is going to be my favorite because clearly I'm the spooky guy. I love my horror movies. I love my horror themed everything, but that's year round. That doesn't go away. It doesn't come back around Halloween. It just gets amplified around Halloween. So I do love Halloween, but yeah, Christmas is my favorite time of year. And I think a lot of it is my childhood because, we grew up rather poor. Like we didn't have a lot of money. My parents never let us know we were poor. Like that was just my normal. And they made sure we had everything we needed. You know, it was like I always had clothes on my back, always had food on the table. I didn't know how much my parents were struggling, but they always provided. But, you know, all throughout the year, it wasn't like, you know, I could really get an allowance for the longest time. It wasn't until, you know, my parents they moved up in their positions at their work that they were able to provide a little bit more. But Christmas time was always the year. They are always the time of year. They always made sure that they got us stuff that we really wanted at Christmas. And when I say really wanted, it's not like I got a Nintendo or like, you know, a color TV or something crazy. I mean, it was like looking back, it was GI Joe action figures and like vehicles and stuff, but it was always great. It was stuff that I really wanted. And again, I didn't know that it
Mhm.
was, you know, cheaper. Really, I wasn't paying attention to the cost. But like again, my parents always made Christmas such a big time. And I mean it was more than the presents. Like we made a big deal about decorating the tree. Like we had this tradition where every year we put on the Beach Boys Christmas album, Beach Boys being my dad's favorite band.
Nice.
And I know that album literally front to back, every fucking word on it. I listen to it every year. It's still one of my holiday traditions. But we'd put the album on and we'd decorate the house. We'd put up all the garland and all the lights, and we had this I don't know how to describe it other than a chintzy like 1960s chrome plated Santa Claus and reindeer set
Nice.
that like the reindeer were like that red flocking, but the Santa was chrome red and his sleigh was silver. It was really weird, but we always put that up, and then we had with the big fake Christmas tree. And I'm talking the old school like 1950s big fake tree where it was the giant wooden rod in the middle
Oh,
and all
nice.
the wire things that you had to stick into the rod. This thing was huge, but we'd set it up. You know, we'd take a whole day do that, and then we'd have a day and we made Christmas cookies. And my mom always made bullinas, which are a Spanish pastry that I
Mhm.
grew up on. There, it's basically like brown sugar, cinnamon, walnuts, in like almost like an empanada with like an egg wash over it. They're
Nice.
absolutely my favorite Christmas cookies. But yeah, we would take all day and do that. So there was always like something fun leading up to Christmas. We'd
Mhm.
always go sledding. You know, we'd always like have a night where we all sit around and watch Christmas movies, or like, you know, my dad used to play his guitar and sing Christmas songs. Like, so there was every day of December was like something fun. There was something really cool going on. And that lasted until I was like 12 years old. So it was like
Nice.
every year was like that. Now, you know, as the kids get older, as you know, as I know, you know, Christmas traditions start relaxing a little bit because you got a lot to do. You got to take care of everything still. So it's like you feel like you can breathe a little bit more. And, you know, the kids understand the magic of Christmas is like, yeah, we manufacture that. It's not really Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, you kind of, but you still want to make it special. So we continued to have great Christmases, even as, you know, as I aged up. We still do to this day, but, you know, they just change over time. But because of that, like first 12 years of life, the Christmas season was always so damn magical to me, and I still to this day love it. As soon as it gets a little snowy and cold after Thanksgiving, I get excited. I want to listen to my Christmas music. I want to start watching Christmas movies. You know, I feel like I'm turning into Santa Claus with the amount of shit I buy for everybody.
Right.
Um, you know, but it's just I love this season.
Yeah, see, and I feel like I'm turning into Santa Claus because I'm getting rounder and all of my hair turned white and I have a bushy beard.
You know, that's not a bad look, though, man. You know, Santa Claus can get it. I mean, how many songs are out there about ladies going after Santa Claus? You know, come on, Santa baby. I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. Come on,
Hmm.
you know, Santa can get it.
I know, right? So it's like, yeah, I guess so, but
Not a bad gig.
not a bad gig. Yeah. Oh man. See, I have mixed feelings about Christmas, I have to say. I don't want to sit on your couch here, you know, in this like
No, man.
psychoanalyst's office and like, you know, analyze myself. But, you know, I have mixed feelings about Christmas. I love Christmas as a kid. It was my absolute favorite holiday for years and years. But then there was a period of time when like, it wasn't so good, and like there were some rough memories for a while there, like when I was late teens and early 20s, and I kind of got like
Sure.
spoiled on it for a while. But yeah, I mean, prior to that, it was the same. My parents never had a lot of money, but they made Christmas very special, and we always had great toys and great memories. And my mom would play Christmas music. She loved oldies, stuff from the 50s and 60s. That's pretty much what she listened to year round. So when you put the
Hmm.
Christmas music on from those time periods, and it's like this classic stuff, and she would just have it playing in the house all the time, and watch old Christmas movies. And I always thought of Christmas as a time, and maybe this is, I'm not sure how to communicate this, but it's sort of as a time for like getting in touch with your family's history and older times and
Hmm.
older traditions. So yeah, I mean, I'd get GI Joes and Transformers and stuff, but we would watch old movies and listen to older music. And on Christmas Eve, we would go out to my great aunt and uncle's house, and they had a farm, outside of town, and we would drive out there, and the whole family would come for Christmas and exchange gifts and like sing songs, and there'd be like a big potluck, and everybody would bring like their best Christmas desserts. And but it would be a room full of my great aunts and uncles, like the greatest generation and boomers and people who are a lot older than me. So I always thought of Christmas as this it seemed very old and ancient to me. I know that's weird as a kid, like just because old people seem ancient,
But no, you're not like I get what you're saying 100% because we also had the same thing as far as like family get-togethers. You saw relatives that you might not see that often around, all year round. And there's like traditions that you weren't around for, but they tell you about them. So you start this new thing that's new to you but old to them. Like it makes a lot of sense. I 100% can vibe with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I always thought of it was as this sort of like, ancient holiday, as I mentioned. And strangely enough, I had this coloring book, and I don't remember what it was called, but I vividly remember the story in this book. I must have been 8 when I had this. I lived in Greenfield, Massachusetts. That was the town where they canceled Halloween because there was that Jason, Voorhees copycat killer.
Yeah.
The story that I told in the We Love Halloween and Halloween Loves Its Backstory last year. But I had this huge coloring book. It was like a phone book, at least in my memory. I remember it being really thick, and it was all Christmas themed, but it was like a story. It was, every page just had like a picture or two on it to color in, but it told a story, and it was like the origin of Christmas or something like that. And it presented Santa Claus and the elves as carrying on the tradition of this ancient magic that had to be
Mhm.
preserved. And all these kids with their like newfangled toys, that's great and we love them, but you have to understand the importance of that these elves are this like ancient race that have always protected and loved children. And it was like it was this interesting story, and I've always carried that through in my head for years when I think about Christmas. You hear some of these Christmas songs that talk about Yuletide lore and legends and things, and to me that's what it is, because I remember this
Mhm.
coloring book that told the story of these this ancient race of elves.
Yep.
Oh man.
See now, I similarly, no, I didn't have a book like that, but my mom, as far my entire life, she's always been obsessed with the idea of Santa Claus, and I mean, my mom, she's very crafty. She likes to
Hmm.
paint. She likes to make little toys and all sorts of stuff. She's always made Santa Claus decorations. We've had so many homemade Santa Claus decorations throughout my life, but there was a period of time where she was making these wood cutouts. So she would draw a Santa, but it was always an old world Santa. So it was like
Hmm.
this old man in like, green robes, and he would have like a Christmas tree over his shoulder and
Yep.
like,
Hmm.
a sack full of like fruits and nuts and like peppermint sticks and stuff. She loved old world Santa. So there was a lot of like that kind of decoration in my house growing up, especially as a teenager, because I forget what we got a new saw. I forget what type of saw it was, but my dad got it to fix we had picnic table in the backyard, and it was broken. He's like, I'm going to make a new one. So he bought it for that reason. But then my mom started doing all these wood cutouts with it.
Oh, nice.
And so she's been doing all these Santas for years. She used to sell them too. It was a little side hustle for her.
Mm-hmm.
But so again, the idea of ancient Christmas has always been a part of my Christmas, but it's always been more about Santa, like the like what he is and like what he's brought. And I think that for my mom stems from her childhood, where when she was real little, like she often talked about how they wouldn't get any toys because they just didn't have, that kind of money. But every year her dad would dress up in this Santa Claus costume, and she didn't know it was him at first, obviously, when she was real little. But he had this like old green robe and like a green hat, and he just had a big red beard. That's just, my grandfather had a red beard and not a white beard. But he would make stockings for her and her brothers, and he would always fill them with fruit, like nuts in the shell, so like the kind you have to get the old cracker out for, like the walnuts and the Brazil nuts and all that. Big old handful of nuts, some kind of chocolates. Like they rarely got chocolates, but they'd always get chocolates at Christmas. And do you remember those massive peppermint sticks? Not like a candy cane, but the thing, I don't like these because you have to put them away. Like you can't eat it in one sitting, so you're coming back to like dried slobber on the candy cane. I've never liked them for that reason.
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
But they would always get one of those. So every year, like that was what she would look forward to, is this stocking filled with like fruit, nuts, and candy. So that was like a big part of her Christmas. So it's actually a tradition that I've carried on as an adult. Was once, like I moved out and, had a family of my own, I started bringing her every Christmas, along with her Christmas gifts. I get a stocking and I fill it with all that stuff. So every Christmas she still gets that, that stocking. But yeah, there is something magical about the lore and legend of Christmas. It's more than just the commercialism. It's the spirit of Christmas. It's that feeling that you get.
Yeah, absolutely. All this talk makes me realize too that I think my memories of Christmas are also very much influenced by Santa Claus the movie, with John Lithgow and Dudley Moore and David Huddleston, because again, they present Santa Claus as this like ancient tradition, and even the guy who is Santa Claus, David Huddleston, who is also the Big Lebowski from the Big Lebowski, he's been doing this for like hundreds of years, being Santa Claus, and these elves have been around forever. So, maybe I was very subconsciously thinking about that too, combined with that like coloring book. But anyway, I do think it's a great time of year. But let's also use that as a segue to move to the next topic. Speaking of Santa Claus the movie, which I don't know how popular it is anymore. To me, it's a staple of watching Christmas movies every year. It's one of the ones that I watch. My kids have never made it through a sitting. I don't think that they like it or care. But
it's such a good movie.
I know, but I love it. But I'm probably pretty vanilla when it comes to my taste in Christmas movies. Of course, everyone who's listened to this podcast knows that my favorite movie of all time, not just at Christmas, but period, is A Christmas Story.
I've already watched it about 13 times this season.
Yeah, me too.
It's my go-to wrapping presents movie and cleaning the kitchen movie.
Yeah, same here. That one and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation are the two. I basically just kind of go back and forth with, like, I want to put a movie on in the background while I'm doing something, and I'll put on Christmas music. So it's like they go along with Christmas music. It's just the soundtrack, Yep. And then of course we watch Elf and Home Alone and Home Alone 2. So like I said, I'm probably pretty basic. I've mentioned before that Christine and I watched Love Actually on Christmas Eve every year. It has become a sort of unofficial tradition to make sure we always watch it on Christmas Eve. And
also a highly underrated Christmas movie. I like that movie quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. I think Love Actually is great. It has aged strangely, I say, because like a lot of movies from the VHS era, and that one barely is because it's early 2000s, but like a lot of movies from that era, there's things in it that have aged poorly over time, but there's other things that have very much aged like fine wine and gotten better over time, or better, at least to me, maybe as I've gotten older and learned to appreciate, some of the short stories.
Right. Well, the thing I will say about Love Actually is again the cast. The cast is insanely good.
Oh, great.
There's a lot of great actors in that movie. So I know there's a lot of naysayers when they hear Love Actually or hear like, Christmas rom-com or, those kind of things. Like, no, it's got a really solid fucking cast.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I won't even waste, the many minutes it would take me to, rattle them all off and go into how good they all are, because you're absolutely right. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. And if you're the kind of person
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't normally like rom-coms and you're listening to us, talk about Christmas movies and things, absolutely you have to watch it, because yes, it is a rom-com, but it's very much about the magic of Christmas, but how that affects romance, because everybody knows that the magic of Christmas is about, like, it's more important to give than to get, and to be around family
Mm-hmm.
and to sacrifice for your loved ones. And it's like that also extends to romantic relationships, and I think that that's really what the movie's about. But for me,
Yep.
Bill Nighy is the standout. I fucking
He's
love that dude.
I love him in everything, but he's so good in that movie. He's just
Right?
so damn good.
God, his character, every time he comes on screen, I just like crack a big cheesy smile just to see him,
Right.
and he plays this like aging rock star who's making a comeback with a Christmas single. It's like, oh my, I love it so much. Oh man. But anyway,
I can't think of a movie I've seen him in that I didn't like. Or I didn't at least like him. Like, he's always fun because he was in Underworld, and I'm not crazy about
Yeah.
that, but he was great.
yeah, there are a lot of terrible movies that, have great performances by great actors
Yep.
just stuck in the middle of some, schlock fest,
Oh, and I got plenty of those Christmas movies on my list.
Yeah, let me ask you for your list, but real quick, I'm just gonna round off mine again, my sort of probably basic bitch list. But I'll say I am also a huge fan of A Garfield Christmas. That's probably my favorite animated special, even
Oh,
more
yeah.
so than the Peanuts Christmas special. And I used to say that as a big comic book fan and a snob, the only Garfield comics I would allow in my curated collection is the adaptation of A Garfield Christmas as a comic. but but I must admit that in the last year I have expanded it to also now include Garfield in Disguise, which is the Garfield Halloween adventure, but it was originally published under a different title. And I've also added A Garfield Thanksgiving, and I gotta say, they're not as good, but pretty close. So now I have three.
I mean, I can't hate on Garfield. I always enjoyed it. I was Garfield was one of the comic strips that I read every week in the paper. Calvin and Hobbes is still and will always be my favorite, but I always read Peanuts and I always read Garfield as well.
Yeah, yeah. I was recently turned on to a really interesting book that is not hard to find on eBay if you get the original printing of it. There was a reprint that is kind of a collector's item, that unimportant detail, but there is a Garfield book called His 9 Lives that came out in 1985 as a graphic novel, which unusual at the time. Garfield had only been in the newspaper for 5 or 6 years at that point, and this was before any of the TV specials or any of the Garfield comic book specials that were longer, like graphic novels. So it was kind of an unusual thing, His 9 Lives, and it has 9 short stories that recast Garfield in a genre story. Like, there is a crime noir story and a story where he's a caveman or cave cat, and a sci-fi story and like a biblical
Nice.
story. I just recently read it and it's fascinating. I got it on eBay for like $10. If you're interested at all, or if you think Garfield is terrible, trust me, His 9 Lives it's worthy. So I guess I have 4 now because I forgot about that one. But yes, I am expanding my snobbery to include the non-super commercial and terrible aspects of Garfield comics.
Fair.
Right. So that's basically my list. Although I will say, despite the very traditional and kind of classic Christmas movies. The two that I watch every year that are maybe a little atypical, but still, I'm sure everybody else watches them also. But I absolutely, hands down, have to watch Die Hard every year because, yes, it is a Christmas movie and always has been.
100%.
And also Scrooged. I love Scrooged.
No, I watch Scrooged every year as well. It's sad that we can't have it on the Boogeyman's Closet because, I put that moratorium on it. But,
Oh God! Just digging it in, digging it in, Mike. Just twist it, twist it in.
Just twisting that knife a little bit more. But no, I do love that movie as well. Honestly, pretty much everything you mentioned are Christmas staples for me. Like most people, A Christmas Story is a must-watch. I actually even really like the Christmas Story Christmas, the one that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. And the Christmas Story Part 2, the one with God, why can't I think of his name? The guy who plays in the Wet Bandits.
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern, thank you. It was like right on the tip of my tongue. Couldn't think of it. Yeah, he plays the old man. Now, it's a cartoonish, almost parody of A Christmas Story, but I find it oddly fun. I don't want to watch it any time of the year except around Christmas.
Yeah.
I'll get that little urge where I'm like, you know what? I'll throw it on. Just kind of, it's not as good as the others, but it's a watchable.
Yeah. I like them all. Even the other ones that take place in the summertime, but we won't go down that rabbit trail again. But go ahead.
But yeah, of course, I do have several Christmas horror movies that I watch. I always watch Black Christmas, the original. I'm not opposed to the 2006 remake Black Xmas. I think that it is a really fun movie, and they did what I want out of a remake. They added a little bit to the story. They changed a few details around, but at its core, it's still the same premise. The 2019 one, however, I won't go into it here. If you want to hear me hate on it, listen to The Boogeyman's Closet, because I fucking loathe that movie. It's probably my top 3 most hated movies of all time. And it's more so because the cast is good. That makes me hate it even more, because it's like you had good people involved. Right. This could have been something. So it's just it's extra insulting.
Yeah.
But so some of the movies that I've added in the last couple of years, I would have never expected, but 2 in particular, Four Christmases and Christmas with the Cranks. Now, these are cheesy, family-friendly kind of, Christmas with the Cranks is family-friendly comedy. Mm-hmm. Four Christmases, as I know is kind of a cheesy rom-com Christmas movie. But again, great actors in both movies. Silly Christmas fun. I genuinely enjoy Christmas with the Cranks way more than I should. Mm-hmm, sure. It might have to do with my love of Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis, but it's just a silly, dumb, fun movie. I already watched it twice this season. But then there's some horror movies like Better Watch Out. That movie is really sadistic. They do the Home Alone paint can scene, but show you what would actually happen to somebody if they got hit in the face with a giant can of paint. And it is disturbing as hell. But I won't ruin anything here for people who haven't watched it. But the villain of the movie is what makes it so intense. It's highly recommend if you're looking for a good, creepy, unsettling Christmas horror movie. Of course, there's stuff like Krampus, great movie. The Mean One, which should not be as fun as it is, but that is the Grinch horror movie with David Howard Thornton of Terrifier fame. Mm-hmm. It's dumb. It's ridiculously dumb, but my God, I laughed my ass off throughout it. It's just so silly. But one of the newer ones that I can recommend with a straight face to anyone who wants a good Christmas horror story is the I want to say it was 2021 or 2022, but Christmas Bloody Christmas. This is another bloody, disgusting movie. The people who do Terrifier. It's basically Terminator meets Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, nice.
It's a killer animatronic Santa Claus on a fucking warpath. And it's just over the top. It's quick. It's short. It's only like an hour and a half. It's very quick. They don't waste any time. They get right into the insanity. It's
Nice.
just a fun flick. So highly recommend that one. And then most recently, the new Silent Night, Deadly Night, the second time they've remade this movie, because sadly, the 2012 remake was just, oh God, it was abysmal. Um, there is a scene involving a flamethrower that's funny, and a scene involving a wood chipper that is horrific. But other than that, there's not much reason to watch it. But yeah, the 2025 remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it because it did just come out this year. But they do what I want in a remake. Like I mentioned with Black Xmas, where it's like we're remaking the story, we're doing some new twists and turns, so we're not just rehashing the same old crap. But what Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 does better than Black Xmas is it says, you know what, let's reference the kills from the other movie, but let's do shit in a different way.
Okay.
So we still get the nostalgic, like, oh, it's, Billy with the bow and arrow, or Billy in the sledding scene. Anyone who's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about. They redo that in a completely different angle.
Nice.
But the thing I like about it is the plot line, where the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, Billy he witnesses something traumatic, he goes crazy. It was, his parents get murdered at Christmas time by a guy dressed like Santa Claus. So every time, he gets around Christmas, he's traumatized, and he eventually snaps and goes on a killing spree. In this one, it's more like a mix between Frailty, if you guys have seen the 1990s
God, yeah.
fantastic movie Frailty.
Love it.
It has a plot line very similar to that, mixed a little bit with Dexter.
Oh.
And
Okay.
it's a real interesting ride, but again, short, sweet, to the point. It's like an hour and a half. It's got the right amount of comedy, like tongue is firmly stuck in cheek. You're going to be laughing the whole time. But they didn't skimp on the kills. They went batshit with the blood and gore. There is one particular scene. All I'm going to say, you can see it online already. It's been ruined for most people. But there is a white power Christmas where there is a group of Nazis, and Billy does not disappoint in what he does to them. It is fan-fucking-tastic.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch Christmas Bloody Christmas for sure. That one for sure. But yeah, but that one also sounds pretty good. I don't watch a
I
lot
think
of.
you and Tegan would get a kick out of that one.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'll have more time to sit down and watch movies with Tegan now that I'm off work for the holidays for the next 2 weeks, which I'm super excited about. Um, but yeah, I don't watch a lot of like dark or creepy or horror movies at Christmas time, but absolutely I would definitely want to check those ones out. And not that I have a problem with it because
Oh
spooky
yeah.
spooky ghost stories at Christmas is an old tradition. It's just I don't have a lot in my rotation, but Scrooged, I guess, kind of counts. And Violent Night is a new one. I haven't seen it yet this year,
Oh,
but it's definitely one I
good.
want to get to before Christmas. I absolutely love that one. But yeah, I'll have to check those other ones out for sure.
One last one just to mention, because I feel like if you haven't seen this, I feel like you would get a kick out of how stupid it is. Because again, much like Jason X, where the people making the movie was like, look, we know it's Jason in space, just come
Yeah.
along for the ride.
Right?
There's a movie called Santa Jaws. And
Yes, I've seen the trailer.
dude, it is but it has no right to be as fun as it is. Like, I'm not a shark movie guy. I love Jaws, and that's about it. But Santa Jaws, holy hell, is it hilarious. And it involves like comic art. So, little tie there.
Maybe I'll be into it. Maybe I'll be into it. So I'll say, speaking of comics, because I didn't have this as a category of things to talk about on my notes for the episode today, but since you mentioned it, I have had this comic for a while. It came out in 2023, but for some reason I never sat down to read it until just recently, partly because I have a lot of books that I haven't read, so I have to kind of put rules around which ones I'm going to get to. Otherwise, I just get paralyzed trying to decide like which one do I pick because they all look so good. Like, oh, this one looks great. This one looks great. Like, which one do I read? So having something to read because it's Halloween season or because it's Christmas season, it makes it easy for me to like narrow down like, okay, I'm definitely going to read these. And I finally read Four Gathered on Christmas Eve by it's essentially by Eric Powell, but it's actually an anthology comic where Eric Powell, the creator of The Goon, and Mike
Mm-hmm.
Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, with
Yes.
Becky Cloonan, who is an amazing comic book artist, not as well known, but she worked on Demo with Brian Wood, Conan the Barbarian comics at Dark Horse. She's done a shitload of stuff at DC, like on Batman and Harley Quinn, and like she's just all over the place. If you don't know Becky Cloonan, I can't think of like the one book that people would know her from, but oh my God, like, I'm looking at her Wikipedia page right now. Like she's just worked on everything, you know, like I said, Batman and Punisher and Avengers and you name it. And she is amazing. I love the stuff that she used to do as an indie artist, you know, because I'm a snob and I've been a fan since the early 2000s when she put out some of her, you know, self-published comics like Minis and Pichu. But then also James Herron. It's the four of them, and James Herron, again, maybe not as well known as Mike Mignola or Eric Powell, but people might know him from Kaya that he put out from Image Comics, or Ultra Mega, and he's worked on a shitload of the Hellboy universe comics like BPRD from Mike Mignola. And it's this really great comic where each of them tell a short horror Christmas story where, you know, they write and draw it, and then Eric Powell does this framing device where the four artists, the actual artists, get together, you know, to share their ghost stories, but it's presented as the sort of like Victorian versions of the characters, as if they were getting together to, you know, share stories in the way that Mary Shelley, the creator of Frankenstein, did. There's this story where she and some other writers, like Lord Byron, they got together at this like holiday retreat, and the weather was bad, and they all just kind of like dared each other to tell a spooky Christmas story. And she came up with Frankenstein, right? Which, well, maybe it wasn't Christmas themed, but you know, wintry kind of a story. And
Yeah.
and so Eric Powell takes that same device and he frames the story about these four real people as if they were Victorian like writers and artists, and you know, and poor downtrodden poets, and they get together at Christmas time to tell horror stories. And anyway, it's great. Four gathered at Christmas Eve. I fucking love it. Can't recommend it enough.
It's funny you mentioned that. I've had that in my Amazon cart multiple times.
Well, buy that shit, motherfucker.
I know I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but like, cause you know me, and I love Eric Powell's work. Pretty much anything that man does, I'm all over it. Like that's one of the few comic creators I still, you know, at least once a year usually grab something from. I'm still trying to fill out my Goon collection and in the new formats they're doing, the bunch of old crap omnibus.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Slowly getting those. I got was a Big Man Plans, a couple other of his books, but it's funny you mentioned Becky Cloonan. I've known her art for years. Amazing fucking artist. But James Herron was one I was not, like, he wasn't an artist that I was really that aware of, and I just looked him up and I'm like, holy crap, I've seen his art several times and didn't know the name of the artist. He is really good. Like I'm just kind of fawning over his artwork right now. Like I really
yeah.
That's why I fucking know him. Frickin' Rumble.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, that's the one that I would pick if I were you, knowing your taste in
That's
comics.
why I know him. Yes. Okay, because I'm sitting here looking at, like, he had this drawing. Where did it go? I just passed it, but it was like Aquaman with a fucking great white shark, like just walking on the bottom of the ocean floor. I'm like, that is the coolest illustration ever. And then I just saw the Rumble picture. I'm like, oh, that's why I recognize his work.
It's that guy.
One last thing, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. There is one other movie that I try to watch every year, but it's Scrooge, specifically the one with Alistair Sim. It's
Okay.
I want to say from 1951. It's a short, sweet movie. It's like, I think it's less than an hour and a half, but that's the Scrooge that I grew up watching. So my dad always put it on every year. Whenever it was like scheduled to air, he would let us know, oh, we're going to watch Scrooge tonight. And we'd all like gather around and watch Scrooge. So it's like, I have to watch that, just like I have to watch Charlie Brown Christmas Special. Like,
Nice.
It's just ingrained in my brain. It needs to be seen.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned it because I had forgotten about that, but as soon as I Googled it, I was like, wait, is this the one I'm thinking of? And I'm like, yep, that's the one. That's the one my mom used to always watch. I said, my mom used to always watch, older movies, and for sure,
Yep.
that's the Scrooge that I used to watch when I was a kid too. But man, I had forgotten about it. I haven't seen it in a long time. Damn, I'm gonna have to
It's
watch it.
so good.
So
It's on Tubi.
nice. So let me switch the topic to is there a movie, like a classic Christmas movie, one that other people love to watch every year that you have either never seen or just hate?
Um,
Or maybe both.
I don't know. I don't know if there's one that I hate per se, but there's definitely popular ones that I just don't really watch. Like for example, the Jim Carrey Grinch. I know everybody loves that, and I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I don't dislike it. I just don't ever watch it. It never, like when I want to watch the Grinch, I always want to go back and watch the cartoon. And then nothing against the live action at all. I know plenty of people love it, but it's just not something I watch. I know another franchise of films that are quite popular that I've never seen a single one all the way through is the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies.
No. Yeah.
Now, my dad loves those movies, which is funny because he's not really one for those types of movies, but for whatever reason, he loves the Santa Claus movies. I've seen bits and pieces at my parents' house multiple times throughout the years. I've never once sat through an entire one.
Yeah, it's I've seen the first one like when it was probably new to TV way back in the day. I've never seen any of the sequels. I recently got interested and I haven't seen it yet, but I put it on my list of ones that I want to watch this year because it's a classic. I hear a lot of stuff about it. It's kind of like Jingle All the Way, where like, yeah, I watched it way back in the
Oh yeah.
day, but I've never had any desire to revisit it. With The Santa Claus, it's because I used to not like Tim Allen. Like I didn't like Home Improvement. I didn't understand or like why people cared about him. I never saw Galaxy Quest for years because I was just like, ugh, Tim
Mhm.
Allen. It wasn't until I heard so many great things about it and it had become like a cult classic that I was like, okay, fine, like I'll check it out. And of course it's great. But
Right.
in the years since, I've come to appreciate Tim Allen. Yes, he's corny, but
Hmm.
he doesn't make me cringe as much as he did when I was younger. So, I'll check it out.
Well, that's like I said, that's like with Christmas with the Cranks. He's the actor alongside Jamie Lee
Yep.
Curtis. And I do enjoy it, but like most of his scenes aren't the stuff that makes me laugh. More of the stuff with Jamie Lee, this is the stuff that cracks me up, like her trying to escape the neighbors and
Yeah.
just a lot of the hijinks that happen are what get me. But I did actually like Home Improvement back in the day, but after I stopped watching it with the family, I kind of just ignored Tim Allen for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Exactly right.
Other than Galaxy Quest, I love Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I don't like Bad Santa. I won't say that I hate it, but
Okay.
I just don't understand why people like it so much because it has become a staple. Christina has watched it this year because she likes it, but I guess I don't get it. I don't understand why people like it. To me, it just there's something about it that's just kind of nails on a chalkboard for me. I can see why you would want to make a movie about people who are very jaded and depressed and things at Christmas time, but I just don't think that any of it comes across as endearing or empathetic in any way. There's like tons of great performances and great actors in it, but I feel like they're all like working off of different scripts. Like none of them are in the same movie. It's just there's something about it that's just really disjointed.
I don't disagree with you on that. I don't dislike Bad Santa, either of them, Bad Santa 1 or 2. Like I enjoy them, but they're also not a yearly staple for me. They're now if I take a day where I'm like, I'm just gonna get all the presents wrapped, I will just burn through whatever holiday movies are on
Hmm.
whatever streaming service I happen to be watching. So like last year, I know I was going through. I did like 8-Bit Christmas, Christmas, well, obviously Christmas Story, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, all those. But then I did get to Bad Santa, and I'm like, all right, Bad Santa it is. So I haven't watched it this year yet. I don't hate it, but I also don't disagree with what you're saying about the writing feeling disjointed with it almost seems like little vignettes. Like here's a
Yeah.
funny moment, here's another funny moment. It doesn't meld well. Um but I mean it's I think you know what it is. And it's one of those films where if you're used to watching like the more, I guess, family friendly holiday movies or the movies that have like a holiday spirit, this is kind of the anti holiday spirit. It's the same
Yeah.
way for like a lot of my friends hate Christmas horror. Not that they hate horror movies, they just hate Christmas horror because it doesn't make sense to them to have this horrific, gross, monstrous thing happening at such like a warm and fuzzy time of the year. So I feel like Bad Santa kind of falls into that same grouping as like Christmas horror to a degree because it's the anti-Christmas. And it's kind of hard to get into an anti-Christmas mood when you're in a Christmas mood, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
maybe that's exactly the way to explain it because I like Bernie Mac and I like John Ritter and I like Billy Bob
mhm.
Thornton. It's like I like everybody in the movie. And maybe it's just too cynical. Like I don't want to watch cynical Christmas movies at Christmas time. Maybe if I saw it at a different time of the year, you know, to your
Right.
point, like I if I'm in the mindset to watch a Christmas movie, I'm okay with watching Santa like blow some fools away. Like I can get down for that for sure. That's fun. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that Santa's just cynical. um,
Now, I will say if you haven't seen Bad Santa 2, Kathy Bates plays his mom, and she's awesome.
I love Kathy Bates. All right, I might watch it
I do
just
too.
for her. I might watch it just for her. um,
She's always good.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to movies. Although, I'm sorry, I have to say one more thing, and I feel like I may have mentioned this in another episode because it sounds kind of familiar in my head, but I don't know. But I have never seen, despite the fact that my mom used to watch a lot of old Christmas movies, like black and white movies, I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. And now,
Really?
now that I'm 45 years old, it's 2025. I have gone my whole life without seeing it. And I realized this at some point in my 20s where I was like, huh, shit, I've never seen that. I probably should watch it. But now it's like I don't want to break the streak, you know?
You know, I feel like you've told me this before, but for some reason it still just shocked me just now. I was like, shock and awe. How did you not see this?
Right? I think it shocks a lot of people of a certain age. Like my kids don't even know what the fuck it is, but like
Right.
people our age, it's like what? You've never seen that? I've seen clips from it. They even show
Hmm.
clips of it in other Christmas movies that I watch on a regular basis,
Yeah.
but I've never seen the entire movie. I know what it's about. I know all the characters' names because it's a part of our like shared monoculture. But yeah,
Hmm.
I at the time in my early 20s when I realized it, that was that period of my life I mentioned where, I was like, I just didn't really care about Christmas. I was kind of like, fuck that. Like, I was moving on from it. Like, Christmas is like dumb and childish and going through that kind of phase in my life. And I think when I realized it, I was like, there's something in me that doesn't want to see it almost out of spite, or at least at the time. And now it's been so long that I don't feel that level of spite and negativity. But again, now it's like I just don't want to break the streak. Like, can I make it to
Yep.
50? you know?
And that's fair. That is 100% fair because I'll be honest. And I'm not going to take the show into a drug talk here, but that I never partook in the devil's lettuce my entire life,
Hmm.
and I like after a while it was like okay, I had access to it and I could do it, but I was like, but I never have. I kind of don't want to break the streak. Like, and I didn't for the longest time. And then finally, old age and pain caught up to me. And I'm like, let me
Hmm.
try this and see if it helps. And it's like, oh, a whole new world just opened up in front of me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Not saying that It's a Wonderful Life will do the same for you, but I understand the not wanting to break the streak.
Right. Maybe when I turn 50, maybe the big 50, will be enough of a milestone for me to be like, okay, fine, I'll give. We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
I feel like we've been talking a long time about Christmas movies, but that's okay because we do talk about movies a lot on this podcast. I don't know that that was intended when we started it 4 years ago, but we do talk about movies
Yeah.
a lot. Um, The last thing I'll say on the topic, though, is the one movie that I like to watch every Christmas that isn't a Christmas movie. It has some Christmas in it. The little bit of Christmas that's in it is so perfectly Christmas, if you understand my meaning, right? It's so perfectly captures what you want to see in a Christmas movie, but also kind of on purpose, which is Funny Farm by with Chevy
Oh,
Chase, right? That
God.
came out in 1988.
Yes.
So if anyone hasn't seen it, it's a classic Chevy Chase comedy. If you like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, if you like Chevy Chase films from like the 80s and 90s, you will definitely like Funny Farm if you haven't seen it. Chevy Chase grates on my nerves as a human being, but as a comedian in the 80s, like he was definitely on his game. And Funny Farm is a really funny movie. Most of it takes place in the summertime, so it's kind of the opposite of Christmas. But again, there is a section of the movie that takes place at Christmas time, and it's purposely designed to be the most classically American Christmas they could possibly come up with, and it totally
hmm
sells.
Now, because it's been probably a good 20 plus years since I've seen Funny Farm. That's the Chevy Chase movie with the lamb fries, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay, yes. I remember that scene vividly
Yeah.
where he was all excited about being like breaking the record until he found out what it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and like not to spend too much time on it, but yeah, he plays a big New York City journalist, like a sports writer who decides to move out to the country with his wife. It's like upstate New York, and he has very much like Clark Griswold in the vacation movies, he has this idealistic perfect concept in his mind of what it'll be like to like live in the beautiful countryside with my adoring wife, and maybe we'll have kids, and whatever, and I'll write the great American novel in this big old pretty farmhouse. But absolutely everything goes wrong for them. They move to the worst town in America, and it just becomes a comedy of errors, which is what Chevy Chase is great at. Like I said, if you like
Yeah.
the vacation movies, this could just be Clark Griswold. This movie very much could make sense if you think of it as Clark Griswold and Ellen, early in their relationship, before they had kids. Like what were they like as a young couple? And that's very much Funny Farm.
I'm gonna have to revisit that because it's been a very long time since I've seen it, and I agree with you on Chevy Chase actually. Like, I think he is not a great person, and from the stories I've heard from various interviews around Hollywood, he sounds like a bit of a prick. But as a comedic actor in the '80s, I fucking loved a lot of his movies.
Right. So let's segue to a similar topic in terms of what are some great things that we love about Christmas. Since we're pop culture nerds here talking about pop culture
Mhm.
properties, we talked about movies. Let's talk about songs. And
Oh yeah.
at the risk of another topic where we go on and on and on and list like every Christmas song we like, like let's narrow it down to, of course, we all love the same Christmas songs, but what are some songs that you listen to every year that are maybe a little non-typical or a little weird, or the one that you love but other people maybe not haven't heard about or don't like or whatever, like what are your kind of special Christmas songs?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to like three, but I'll keep it brief. So as I mentioned, Beach Boys Christmas album, whole album front to back. I listen to it every year. But some of my favorite Christmas songs, like I have a Spotify playlist that is about 5 hours long of Christmas music.
Nice.
And one like right off the top, I have multiple versions of this song, but the song Father Christmas, specifically the Cheap Trick version. I fucking adore that version of the song. It's so good. It's kind of depressing in a way because again, it's you talking about poor kids that they don't want the toys. They want money because they're
Hmm.
broke. And then there's that line where he's like, but give my daddy a job because he needs one because he's got lots of mouths to feed. It's like, oh God, and it's like they like remember those kids who have nothing. Like it's just like it hits you in the feels in a weird way, but I I adore that song.
Nice.
Another one, fantastic, specifically by No Doubt. Now, I love the Vandals, but Oi to the World.
Yeah, that's on my
I know
list
it's,
too.
oh, dude, it's
Yeah.
such a great song. The Vandals one is fantastic, but Gwen Stefani before she became the Gwen Stefani that we all knew, but I'm talking old school ska punk rock Gwen
Mhm.
Stefani. I love her voice, and her version of Oi to the World with No Doubt is so good.
Classic.
It's a must listen to every year. Also, another whole album, the Bad Religion Christmas album. It's
That's a good one.
outstanding. But now some little specific ones here. The Drifters version of White Christmas. Now, if you don't think you know it, you do. It's sung in Home Alone.
Yeah, that's
It's
on my
when
list too.
Macaulay Culkin, yes,
Yeah.
when he's slapping the shaving cream on the doot 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 doo ba doo ba doo like every
I love
year.
that song.
So do I. I mentioned this, I believe, in You'll Perish too, but Mele Kalikimaka by Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters.
Love it. Love
It's
it. Of
the
course.
Christmas Vacation when he's imagining the pool. You hear that song playing. It's classic. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
Cool Yule by Louis Armstrong. I fucking love that song. Run Run Rudolph by Chuck Berry. Come on. How
That's
can
on
you
my
not?
list too.
Of course. It's fantastic. But then, much like you talking about the Funny Farm movies that aren't Christmas song or aren't Christmas, but that you watch it around Christmas. This is a song that has been on every Christmas list I've played that isn't a Christmas song, but Pennies from Heaven by Louis Prima.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
And it's because of Elf. It's because of that scene in Elf where they're playing, and it always makes me think of Christmas whenever I hear that song. So I'm like, well, I got to put it on my playlist.
Right. Nice. Okay. I might have to add that one too. Like, that's a good call.
Mm-hmm. But now, what about you?
Okay, so you already took a couple of mine, but yeah, Oi to the World, the No Doubt cover, I love it, and I would say that a lot of the songs I like to listen to at Christmas are kind of genre covers, pop punk
Yeah.
or metal, whatever bands playing classic Christmas covers. I like that, but I think Oi to the World by No Doubt is something that everybody could listen to. Like, you don't have to, be into punk and ska and whatever it should be a classic that you listen to on the same channel as Bing Crosby and your like Mariah Carey, Christmas songs.
Oh, absolutely.
I mentioned Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer earlier by Elmo and Patsy, or Dr. Elmo as the main songwriter is currently known. And there's another song on the same album that was a B-side on the original single, Percy the Puny Poinsettia. I love that song. I don't know if everybody knows it, or maybe it's more popular than I think, but like, I've always listened to it my whole life, and I have never met another person that I haven't introduced the song to. Like, I don't know anyone else who knows the song. Maybe it's popular. I don't know. But I love Percy the Puny Poinsettia, so much so that the other day I was singing it to myself while I was, combing my hair and putting deodorant on and stuff. And I started changing the lyrics to make them about Jurgen the Yuletide Adventure. And if I could sing, I would sing it to you, but I can't, so I don't want to embarrass myself on the podcast recording. But I might share it with you later.
Nice. See, now you said that name, and I feel like there's a little piece of my brain that just jostled loose. I'm gonna have to look this up because I'm like, wait, why does that name sound so familiar? I might not know the song, but I'm wondering if I've heard you talk about it before.
Yeah, probably. Like I said, I wish I could sing. I would just sing it to you because like you'll get it. But if you haven't listened to it, definitely check it out. It's not as kind of corny as Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. It's a similar, sense of humor. Again, it's the same songwriter, or sorry, it's the same musician, but not written by the same songwriters. But yeah, it's a cute classic, 70s era Christmas song. And I learned what a poinsettia was too from that song because I never knew what those red plants were. But anyway, I love I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, the Gaelic Peavey song from the 50s.
Yes, I have that on my list. It's such a fun song.
I love it. I'll just mention two more real quick, and if you have more, jump in too. But on sort of the punk rock or kind of genre side, I absolutely love the song Christmas Day by MXPX.
Mm-hmm.
If you like pop punk at all, or emo or whatever, if you like that kind of music or just rock and roll, straight up rock and roll, check it out. MXPX have actually put out a lot of Christmas songs, including an entire Christmas album at one point, but Christmas Day to me is the standout, head and shoulders above the rest. It's an absolutely killer song. The lyrics are so simple and so perfect. um,
Agreed.
and my last kind of deep cut one, and this is one of them. You can find it on YouTube. It's a band called The Spivies. It's Thee, The Spivies,
Okay.
Spivies. They were part of that Christian punk rock youth group music, like tooth and nail scene kind of stuff in the 90s. If you follow me, like the same music scene that bands like MXPX and POD and Norma Jean and Switchfoot came out of. And
Hmm.
but they play this sort of like jangly surf rock rockabilly kind of a thing, very sort of
Nice.
low res. It's a very low res recording. It's a song called "There's No Christmas on the Moon." And if you've ever seen the movie, what is it, Santa Claus versus the Martians,
Oh
this
yeah.
this song could be the theme song to that movie. It sounds like an old song from that time period.
See, I love that type of Christmas music because very, very much in that same vein. Like, okay, you know the band, the Mad Caddies, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
They have a song called "I'm Going Surfing for Christmas," and it's just this like silly song about, you know what, I don't want to deal with Christmas. I'm gonna go surfing. I don't want no, turkey with all the trimmings. I'm gonna eat out of a can of beans. Like
Nice.
it's this silly, fun, just kind of like, I don't want to say it's an FU to Christmas, but in a way it kind of is. It's like I'm gonna do my own thing, but it's got this fun, just this fun Christmassy vibe to it. It's such a fun song. But I love that. There's a lot of punk and rockabilly artists that turn the Christmas song on their ear. Like another great one by the Dropkick Murphys is "The Seasons Upon Us."
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
And it's totally anti-Christmas. It's like, I don't want to be around my family. They suck. Blah. Like it's just,
Right.
it's a pissed off, but it's such a fun song, and I listen to it every year. Um, but then of course you have another one of my. It almost made my list. So I'm going to throw it on there now. Is "Santa Baby" covered by Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Oh yeah, I love Me First
Oh,
and the Gimme Gimmes. Although I don't think I've heard that cover.
oh, dude, it's so good. It's so fun because it's like they sing it, as you would expect. With the lyrics, like it's Fat Mike being like "Santa baby." It's so good.
I love it. Oh man.
And we can't forget Run DMC. Come on, Christmas and Hollis and Christmas Is two
Of
great
course.
Run DMC songs.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those. The last one that I'll mention, because I was thinking of these Spivies, even though it wasn't on my list. So I first heard that song, "There's No Christmas on the Moon," on a compilation album called "Christmas in Heaven" that came out from Flying Tart Records in the 90s. And Flying Tart Records was this really, really like low budget label, kind of like Tooth and Nail, that put out Christian like punk and industrial
Hmm.
and metal bands. But they put out this anthology, and it's got some great bands on it, like the Huntingtons and Tess Wiley. But the lead song is a cover of "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" by Sixpence None the Richer. and
Oh,
and this was before they hit big with "Kiss Me" and, like, their big singles that they had in the late 90s. Side note, kind of a deep cut, we'll have to talk sometime about other niche interests that you and I have. Like, obviously I'm
hmm,
into comics and horror, but, like, I know you're also really into toys, and I'm also really into this sort of music scene of these like underground Christian bands from the 90s. And
yeah.
when Sixpence None the Richer became famous off of "Kiss Me," that was on their third album. But I was a Sixpence fan way back before then on their earlier album. So, for me, it was like seeing one of my favorite bands like finally make it big. But yeah, their cover of "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" is fucking great.
I'm actually going to look that up right now and throw it on there because I like Sixpence and the Richer. They're a really good band. Let me see here. Sixpence.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm doing this live on the podcast.
No, it's fine. Well, while you're doing that, I'll just say, if anyone else out there has, heard "Kiss Me" and maybe like my own kid, when the song comes on, they're like, "Oh God, not this song again!" And Tegan doesn't even know about "She's All That" in the movie that like made it famous, and people kind of got sick of it. But I would encourage anyone to listen to the rest of the album that "Kiss Me" is on, because while it is a great song, I think it's kind of become played out over time. But the rest of the album that it's on is phenomenal. We're talking like full orchestra, like these amazing musicians. It's this gorgeous album about like love and depression, and it's a very sad album where "Kiss Me" is this happy shining moment in the middle of it, but it's immediately followed up by the opposite of "Kiss Me," which is a breakup song called "Easy to Ignore," and
Oh shit.
so it's like I highly recommend everyone check it out. It's the self-titled third album. But anyway, let's move on.
I was gonna say before we do, because I could keep going forever, but one thing I do want to mention that I discovered on Spotify a couple years ago and has been part of my Christmas rotation ever since is Seth MacFarlane has a Christmas album. And the guy from Family Guy.
Yeah, he is a good singer, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He's got that crooner vibe. His cover of "Man with the Bag," that everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. That it is such a good song. Like I almost hate that I love it as much as I do, because it's just like all I can still hear in the back of my head is Peter Griffin. I'm just like, but he sings so fucking good. So highly recommend that if you guys are looking for something just a little different. Seth MacFarlane's Christmas album.
Nice. Absolutely. That's awesome. All right. So we've gone through favorite movies, favorite songs, a comic book recommendation, sort of the memories and the reasons why we love the holiday. Before we move on to our season 4 recap and talk about some of our episodes, is there anything else you want to mention, Mike? Anything else about Christmas that either you just have to experience every year or you want to tell people about?
There is one super nerdy thing that I do partake in every year, and I've been partaking in since about 2008. That World of Warcraft
Nice.
does their Christmas celebration, and they change it up a little every year, but there's a few staples. Like for example, there's different mounts and things you can fly around on, but around Christmas time, you can use a piece of magical holly that turns it into a festive reindeer, and you leave
Nice.
like snow trails as you ride, which is kind of cool. But they have an event where you kill the Greach, which is a giant green yeti, and he's covered with presents, and he like kidnapped a bunch of gnomes, so you have to go save the gnomes. Every year they have a Father Christmas celebration where there's a huge tree in the middle of the main cities for both the Alliance and the Horde. And on Christmas morning, depending on your level, so if you've been playing like up to level cap, you get to pick one of every gift. But if you're just starting out, you get like, a handful of gifts. And there's always some kind of weird little cosmetic toy. So it's like nothing that helps in the game, but it's just you want to look festive. Here's an ugly Christmas sweater for your character to wear.
Nice.
Here's a funny Santa hat for your character to wear. Or they have like fun little toys, like they had battle zeppelins one year. So you radio control, like you go into like a radio control mode and you're flying a little zeppelin around shooting at other zeppelins just for funsies. So it's all sorts of Christmas fun. And in that game, just being able to go to a town and see like all these people celebrating and doing silly shit, like it gets you in the mood. Like you just kind of like you want to celebrate Christmas. You can have snowball fights, and it's nothing that's going to affect your gameplay. It's just something fun to do, and I experience it every year. I look forward to see, okay, what's going to be the Christmas gift this year. So I have like a whole collection of silly little gifts. But yeah, but because we didn't mention games, I'm like, what Christmas game? Oh yeah, I do that every year. World of Warcraft.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, cool. See, I threw the comic in there, you threw the game in there. I like it. It's time to talk about what we've been doing for this whole last year during season 4 of Raise My Rentals. I mentioned, earlier that we were going to kind of look at some facts and figures, like we always do. We got to do our year in review, season recap, so to speak. So I'm gonna kind of get into, what genres we did and how many episodes we did and all that. But let's just, start with, since we're sharing stories, I usually ask what's your favorite episode, but I won't narrow it to one. What were some of your favorite episodes that we did this year?
See, that's a tall order because and not to sit here and stroke myself too much, but I genuinely enjoyed this entire season. Like, yes, there were a few moments in certain episodes where I was like, oh shit, we might crash and burn, but we always pulled it out, and I always enjoyed everything that we came up with. This has probably been my favorite season so far. But I gotta say, if I'm gonna narrow it down just to a couple, I mean, the third Vangabus and Trash Mouth, I really liked both of those. I feel like we did what's very hard to do, which is doing a good threequel. Threequels are tough. I mean, think about like horror movies.
Yeah.
It's rare that the third one is really good. Like, I think Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the few examples of that, where it's like people hold the third Nightmare on Elm Street up as high as the first one.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Halloween 3 has its lovers, but it has a lot of haters too. Same thing with Friday the 13th 3. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw 3.
Yep.
The third one, fuck, Scream 3. Scream 3 is hated by so many people. But for us and the fact that we both pulled it off, and again, I know I'm just kind of stroking our egos here, but 1 Week to Live, it was a departure from the Vangabus while still tying it all back together and doing something new with it. And again, bringing it, like, the idea of Tessie Trashmouth is such a fun idea for a horror movie character. And that movie brought us right back to that gritty New York that the first Hot Garbage gave us, where I just kept feeling like it's a Frank Henenlotter New York. And I could feel the stank and the heat. It's like,
yeah, I love that.
It was such a fun duo for episodes. But again, I could go on about so many other ones, but I have to pick. There's two others. Space Vietnam, I think, was seriously, like, I don't know why it was as fun as it was, because it's a dark episode. But it was such a fun concept to be like, take these things that back in the 80s, everyone was like, oh, they're stupid because they're cute and cuddly. When in the movie, they were trying to eat people. So it's like to take that idea and crank it up to 11, plus see it from the bad guy's point of view. Because again, the whole, what was it, George R.R. Martin that said there's no villains, just heroes of the other side. Am I getting that quote?
Yeah, that's paraphrased, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so and that's kind of the idea that we attacked that episode with, is it's like, well, from the Imperials' point of view, the rebels and the Ewoks are fucking psychopaths and monsters. So it's like, to have that little twist of the knife was so much fun. And like, there was so much more I wish we could have done with that. And who knows, maybe, we can do another Star Wars story somewhere down the line, because I believe that was our first Star Wars story, right?
It was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, there might be more in the well there for a Star Wars tale. But yeah, I had more fun than I expected. But the one that I got to say, I didn't know that we could do, and I had so much fucking fun with it, is The Great Pumpkin.
Yep.
I didn't know that I was terrified going into The Great Pumpkin. I'm like, how can we sully The Great Pumpkin? And not only did I have a blast, and it was a pain in the ass to record, as I'm sure you remember. And I'm sure it was even bigger pain in the ass to edit, because little peek behind the curtain here, we had to record that over multiple sessions because of time frames. Like, we both had a horrible work schedule at that point. And so we'd had to put a pin in the story, like, right when it got going. And it's like, fuck, okay, don't think about it.
Right, yeah.
And then come back to it. It was so hard.
It was.
But I love where it came, or where it ended up.
But yeah, that was the first time it ever took us 3 recordings to get an episode done. And, not like, we recorded and fucked it up and had to start over. No, like, it took us 3 sessions that we stitched together. And yeah, to your point, the whole time it was like, fuck, are you busy tomorrow? Like, we can't wait. Like, I'm going to be thinking about it all night. Like, no, I don't want to think about it. Just like, go watch a bunch of movies or something. Like, listen to music loudly or something. Like, don't let your brain think,
Distract yourself quick.
Exactly. Like, go get high or something and go to sleep. Like, don't think about it.
But it really was a fun episode. And I feel like that was one of those times where we kind of nailed what we set out to do. Like, we talked about it at the start of that episode, that there is a trend in horror about taking a beloved child property and turning it into something horrific. I mean, hell, I just mentioned one this year with The Mean One in this episode. Yeah. So it's like, to do that, to take the beloved childhood property and just twist it darkly. You only really have 2 ways to go about it. It's either do it like brutally serious or do it ridiculously campy. And somehow I feel like we found the through line between the two. We still told a semi-serious story while having plenty of humor along the way. But it was, I feel like it honored Charles Schultz's characters. Like, it kind of fit. So yeah. I really loved that episode.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't know if it's number 1, but it's hard to pick a number 1. But yeah, it's absolutely up there for me. And I think for all the reasons that you just said, we talked a lot in the episode itself about how we were so afraid to like approach the throne of glory, right? Because The Great Pumpkin is such a perfect piece of nostalgia for so many people. It's The Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown is a classic Halloween TV special. It's like the Halloween TV special. So how do we improve it? We can't improve it, but we can't ruin it either. So like, what do we do? And doing what we did, I think, was ballsy. I think we absolutely were. We had hubris on our side just to come to the recording in the first place, but I was so excited when it worked out. It was worth the horrific editing that it took to put that episode together, not only because it was recorded in 3 sessions, but, each of the 3 sessions had us talking at the beginning and talking at the end, kind of getting ready, doing this, and then taking breaks and, coughing and making a mistake and cutting out this part and that part and, oh shit, the sound cut out for a second, say it again. And, it was hours and hours of editing.
Dude, I felt so fucking bad for you, like, because I was sitting there going, God, because I'm privy to all the times that we have to like stop because the sound is a problem, or like, I have too much coffee, so I'm like, I gotta pee, stuff like that. So all I kept thinking is, God, this is going to be such a pain in the ass to edit. I feel so bad for this dude. Like, I felt so sorry for you.
Yeah, I was still trying to finish it on Halloween while I was getting ready, like putting my costume on, helping my kids with their costumes, like putting out comics and candy to give away. I gave away 300 comics on Halloween. Like, we were the fucking hit of the neighborhood. It was great. But I'm like on my porch with my laptop trying to finish. Oh man, but it was worth it. Yeah, and there's our first point of trivia that not only was our longest episode in terms of how much we recorded, and you think about making a movie, it's like it's the longest, film like footage that we've ever recorded, but also the longest episode that we've ever released, because it was 3 hours and 14 minutes when our previous longest episode was 3 hours and 30 seconds, which was the Whose Improv Is It Anyway or Mousetrap episode.
That's so crazy that we beat that one, because that was another one that we had. Well, that one we had to do in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And then Great Pumpkin was 3, right?
Yeah, Great Pumpkin was 3. Yeah, we actually we've had several episodes that turned into 2 sessions. The end of last season, we did that a lot, unfortunately, just because we kept running out of time. Like, we kept scheduling recording because we wanted to get an episode out, for a certain holiday or whatever, but not really having the time. So Planes, Trains, and Batmobiles and The Town That Dreaded Festivus, like those both turned into 2-part recordings, and it happened a few other times. But yeah, The Great Pumpkin was the first time we ever had to record 3 sessions, and I didn't turn out to be the longest episode. But I'll say, yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite of the season, and I don't think it feels like a 3 hour and 14-minute episode. You know,
I don't either, because I listened back to it and like it was over before I knew it. Like I was just along for the ride, and I was there at its creation.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like,
And I've listened to it over and over and over again because of the editing, you know, and
right.
and then when I finish editing it, I always have to listen to it again. I usually just
Yep.
publish it and then I listen to it live. Like, what are people hearing? And only once ever in our 110 episodes prior to this one, only once ever have I had to go back and replace the sound file because there was some issue with the final version that made it to the podcast feed. I don't even remember what episode that was. I'd have to go back and check something from our first season. So, but I always listen to it again. And when I listened to it that time, I was like, oh God, I'm done editing. And like, it was the day after Halloween, and now I gotta listen to this fucking thing again. But it just raced by because I got into it. And since I didn't have to keep stopping, I was able to just let it go, and I really
Yep.
enjoyed it. It was I thought we told a good story.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I enjoyed the hell out of that one.
And some other ones, I definitely would put Space Vietnam toward the top of my list too. When we recorded it, I didn't think it stood out as anything special. Not that it was a bad episode, but it just seemed like, cool, there's another good episode. Nice, on to the next one. But every time I've revisited or talked about it with somebody, it's like it raises in esteem. It gets better the more I experience it. I really felt like, we did something special with that one as well.
Yeah. I think, and again, I think it's because Star Wars is such a beloved nerd fandom that being able to do something that's a little off the beaten path with it is kind of surprising and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like haunted house movies when it comes to horror movies. And just like people will say that the first Alien movie is a haunted house movie in space, right? But it's a ghost,
Yep.
it's aliens. And I think something like Space Vietnam falls into that same type of category because it's just a bunch of characters like trapped in an environment where you don't know like what's around the corner, like what's going to happen in the darkness, and it has a very similar feel to a haunted house spooky movie. And yeah, it just I think it really worked out. I was really excited that we did that. And I'll say I think the other one that really stands out for me, and it really is hard to narrow down. I'm going to mention in a minute, like kind of why that is. I think there's a reason why it's hard to narrow down our favorite episodes, but God damn, did I love it when Josh Hibbard came on and we did the Muppet Chainsaw Massacre.
Dude, that one almost made my top 3 because it was so much fun.
Oh, and that was the episode out of all the ones that we've ever done. It's the one that I felt like I was just kind of along for the ride. Like I was just enjoying it almost, like I was just listening to it, or I was a spectator because you and Josh, I mean, especially Josh, but you guys were just kind of going off because you're the mega fans of the movie, of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and of the Muppets. And I was just there I felt like I was playing the horror host,
Right.
Oh God, it was so fun.
Anytime any one of us can just kind of wind Josh up and watch him go, to be like, okay, here's a bunch of stuff, do an impression of this, like go. And then he just wows us with his fucking talent, because like I don't think there's a voice that he's incapable of doing at this point.
Right?
Because he's been sending, I know he did a little bit of this on Count Creepyhead, but he's been sending me messages talking like Ray Romano for the last 2 weeks now. And
Nice.
Dude, it's hilarious every time. It's just really freaking funny.
That's awesome. Oh God, I love that. Oh God, what episode was it? I wrote this little oh yeah, it was it Space Vietnam? Yeah, it must have been Space Vietnam. I'm looking at my notes because I wrote this little intro where I thought it would be hilarious to have Peter Griffin from Family Guy, do one of his like ironic monologues about some pop culture thing and have him talk about like, well, time to record my podcast. But I can't do that accent. And I mentioned it to you and you're like, oh dude, like send it to Josh. And he sent it back almost immediately. And it was like perfect, like one take. I think I edited one word out of it. Like it was just so
Yep.
spot on.
It's crazy because we keep discovering new voices he can do on Count Creepyhead. Because we'll just like Mike will throw something out there or make like an offhanded comment, and then suddenly Josh is talking like whatever character he just mentioned. It's like, how the hell can you do that without being able to like go back and look at reference material? He just spits it out.
I know, right? Like it's like not only can he do the voice and the accent, but then he like has the references. He knows exactly.
Yeah.
He can quote the words exactly or knows the lyrics, you know. And even with Tales from the Cryptmas, we did that last
Oh,
season, and
dude.
Josh came on, and we didn't write any of those Crypt Keeper puns or intros ahead of time, and there was only one I think that he did a second take on, and I actually ended up using part of the blown take because there was still a joke that I liked, so I edited it out and I stuck it in the episode in a different spot where there was kind of like a dead moment, so I still used almost all of it because it was just so perfect.
Oh God, yeah. And that was the thing that kept wowing me during that episode is because we didn't tell first of all, we didn't tell each other what our stories were gonna be, let alone telling Josh. Like we told him on the air when we were telling the listeners what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
And he still came up with punny like intros as the Crypt Keeper without any prep. It was just, here you go, Josh, good luck. And then bam, he nailed it. It's like, how the fuck do you do that?
I know. I couldn't believe it. Oh man. So, and again, that was last season, and we're supposed to do in the season, for a recap. But I just want to say, there was one thing about that episode that I wanted to correct and like just get on the record. So when we did Tales from the Cryptmas, you and I each told a short story, or we each brought one to the group to improv together. And the one that I did, Chimney, spoiler alert for an episode that came out over a year ago, that it ends with the main character, Jules, I think his name was. He falls off the roof after you think he's finally rescued from his predicament, and he gets wrapped up in Christmas lights and ends up getting hung and killed, like with a broken neck off the top of this house. And then we cut to some neighbor in some, neighboring big rich mansion, and the little girl opened like one gift on Christmas Eve and chose this fancy professional telescope, and I was just making it up on the spot. So I was like, oh, like let's use your telescope and see if it works, or look at the sky or whatever. And she looks through the telescope and she sees the dead Santa, or the dead guy in the Santa suit on the neighboring house, and freaks out, and that's how it ends. And I realized as soon as we were done, or when I was editing it, that I should have had the dad say something like, let's use that fancy new telescope to see if we can see Santa Claus flying into town. And then she looks through the telescope and sees the guy in the Santa Claus suit dead on the neighbor's house, and then freaks out. And it just would have like maximized the trauma. And god damn it, I wish I would have had it in the episode.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So okay. Back to season 4.
But just real quick comment on that is the idea of like the one regret I have about this podcast, the only regret I have about this podcast is how many times we have had a story where it's like, oh my God, I love this story so much, but I desperately want to do a rewrite and like just fine tune it, because again, it's off the top of our heads, it's off the cuff, it's kind of like in the moment, and anyone who has written a story knows you go back and you rewrite it, you do a second draft, you clean it up, you tighten it up a little bit, you take out some of the parts that maybe didn't make as much sense, or you make them make more sense, and there's so many times with these episodes where I'm like, fuck, I want to go back and fine tune it, but it's just not in the nature of the podcast.
Yeah. And that's a good segue too into another topic in this recap. Is in every season recap we've done before, I've always asked, what's your favorite episode, or what's your least favorite episode, whatever. And we always end up kind of backpedaling later on with our least favorite episodes. We'd mention one and then later on be like, you know what? Fuck that. Like that really was a good episode. Like I like that story. So I didn't want to ask that this year. But since you mentioned that, I'll frame it like this. I'll go first and then you follow if you want to. I'll say the one episode we did this season that I wish I could go back and tweak and give it a rewrite. Not because it's bad, but because I think there's so much potential there that, oh God, I would love to go back and really treat it right, which is when we did Tarman and the Wraith for one of our
Yeah.
Halloween specials. And you sprung on me to do an improv of the Wraith 2. And all these episodes are improvs, but we usually agree ahead of time on what it is, so you can kind of like think about it a little bit. And I didn't really have any time to think about it, so I was just coming up with something on the spot, and then you came up with something, and we kind of went with your idea. And then at the end of the episode, we were like, okay, so part 3 should be about this. Like it'll be like, you know, a lady on a motorcycle that's like a demon. I'm like, fuck, like that should have been the whole one. Like, you know, like.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, no, I like that idea, but I also really like what we did with, you know, Rughead and Billy, and I like the story that we told, but I just wish I would have had that time. Like I mentioned in the episode, like give me like an hour to go sit with this, and then I'll come up with something good. Like I wish I had a second draft on the Wraith part. The Torment part I thought was fucking great, but the Wraith part I want to redo on.
No, and that's very fair because I actually completely agree on that episode, on both of them though, on Tarman and the Wraith, where it's like sitting down and thinking about those ideas a little bit more, like they could have been fine tuned into into much funnier, like in Tarman's case, a much funnier story, and in the Wraith case, like a much more action packed, fun story. You know, but I feel like there's always that with every season because so for another one that we did this year, Slasher Camp 3 Killing Time, when we were done with that episode, I thought of so many more things that I wanted to do with those characters. And it's like, fuck, we could have put this in here, we could have had this murder, we could have had that. So it's like you always come up with other ideas after the fact where it's like, damn it, if I could only do one more go.
Yeah, right. Actually, and since you mentioned that, Slasher Camp 3, Killing Time, or Freddy and Jason's Excellent Adventure, that's the only time that I have ever come up with an alternate title for an episode that I was just so in love with both of them that I couldn't decide. And even though Killing Time was the episode title we came up with together, so I just went with that. Literally at the last second, as I was uploading it to Podbean, I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm doing a parenthetical alternate title."
I mean, to be fair though, that's kind of that's in the spirit of Slasher Camp, because if you remember, the very first episode was originally Freddy and Jason Bros Before Bitches, because we were going to do a buddy comedy instead of the horror movie that it was, and it evolved into Slasher Camp in the telling of the story. And then we constantly referred to it multiple times, not only on this show but on other shows, as Slasher Camp. So that's not the name of the episode, but we still call it Slasher Camp. So it makes sense with us to have two titles for this one too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we also had, you know, Ernest Goes to Slasher Camp in the second one.
Yeah, and you nailed it. If these were real movies, I would have absolutely called that first one Freddy and Jason Slasher Camp. And then Ernest Goes to Slasher Camp, and then Slasher Camp 3 with one of the subtitles, you know?
Right.
Yeah. The first one absolutely would have had the subtitle Slasher Camp instead of, you know, Bros Before Bitches, but that was still really funny, so we went with it.
Plus, at the time, we really didn't know what we were doing. It was just, Bros Before Bitches.
Yeah, whatever, you know? And that's what happens sometimes, you know? There's been times when we've gone back and changed episode titles, but I brought this one up, too, because that episode, Slasher Camp 3, is also a point of trivia here, the shortest improv episode that we did this season. There was a rental rant that was shorter than that one. And those rental rants and super gushers, unlike this one, they tend to run shorter, but Slasher Camp 3 was a whole improv, a full story, a third part of a series that came in at an hour and 28 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah, pretty short.
That is a short one.
Yeah, so, you know, I guess maybe we should have thought of some of those ideas and stuck them in there, but hey, we still had fun with it. It was a good episode. So yeah, moving on from there, you know, I mentioned a few minutes ago, you know, why I thought this season was so good and why I think it's probably the best one overall that we've done. I could probably make an argument and would probably choose an episode from an earlier season for my favorite ever.
Mhm.
I might with Ego choose Hot Garbage or The Vengabus of Death,
Right.
or we mentioned Tales from the Cryptmas, or Cobra 2 Assignment Miami Beach. Like, we've had some absolute
I love that one.
bangers that were right, or fucking Pauly Shore's Thanksgiving Vacation.
Oh, dude. I don't want to promise anything, but I'm not going to lie. I think I have more in the well for more Pauly Shore. I've been thinking up ideas with Pauly Shore because I've been watching him on TikTok a lot lately. So,
Nice, I'm down because I just watched Son-in-Law a couple weeks ago before Thanksgiving, right?
oh,
So,
fuck yeah, hell yeah.
oh god. But as a whole, I think that this group of episodes is by far the best that we've done, but the reason for that is in line with something that we've mentioned a lot this season, probably too much, but is that this season has been the season of going back to the well, the season of
Yeah.
continuing series or going back and adding to things that we've already done. Pretty much every episode almost has been some kind of a continuation. So if you'll bear with me, because there were 25 episodes this season, which is more than last season when we had 23 in season 3, 28 in season 2, 35 in season 1. But we came hot out of the gate. But I'm pretty excited that we're pretty much staying right in that 20 something episodes per year trend. And we had a lot of scheduling problems this year, but last year was even worse. Like, the summer was like totally blown. But that's beside the point. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to do a quick recap. So we had Escape from Earth, which was on the surface seemed like it was just a standalone sci-fi sequel, right, to an existing series. But then we combined it with Cobra 2 Assignment Miami Beach, and then later on did Snakes in Space. So we made it into a series, right? Okay. And then
Yep.
Laser Swords at Dawn, which also, side note, that's definitely my favorite non-improv episode that we did all year. I fucking loved
Agreed.
that debate we had about The Last Jedi.
Totally agreed.
And it was, it's a rental rant, so I guess technically it's a continuation. But no, that was really more, it wasn't a continuation, but it was a fulfillment of a promise, going all the way back to the first season when we talked about we were going to have this debate, and then at some point we dropped that it was going to be like a Star Wars debate, and we finally did it. Weekend at Bitey's, again, on the surface looks like just a standalone improv, but it was also the fulfillment of a promise, which was doing the episode that we promised we would do in the last episode of season 3, the Morgue File, where we gave everybody a list of 10 dead episode ideas that we probably won't do, and then we were like, you guys pick one and we'll do it anyway. So we did. There you go. And then
Right.
not all the rental rants and gushers kind of fit into, that's why I said almost every episode, but we did out of order. We did Young, Dumb, and Full of Opinions as a rental rant. We also did Loud, Confident, and Wrong, which were not intended to be a part of our toxic fandom series of rental rants that we had done the previous 2 seasons, because we thought we were done with that, but then we ended up just getting real curmudgeonly and bitchy about some more fucking shitty people that we know in fandom.
Exactly.
The Muppet Chainsaw Massacre, again, I don't really know that it's a follow-up to anything. It's pretty straightforward.
Well, it was an experiment because we had talked, I don't know if we talked about it the previous season, but at some point we had talked about that internet meme that keeps going around where it's like, take a movie, replace all the characters with Muppets and keep one person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we were like, all right, let's do. Like, Leatherface is the one person. Let's everyone else is Muppets.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I kind of count it not because it's the continuation of something, but because I think it's the start of something.
Agreed.
And then Flapjack Massacre Second Breakfast, of course, was the sequel to Flapjack Massacre. Does the Comet Have to Be So Mortal was just another improv ruin. So that's kind of how that fits the category, because we have RoboCop at Home as our attempt to take a good movie and ruin it. And so in this case, we took a good video game, Mortal Kombat, that could have been a good movie, but I got in your way. um,
Still a very fun episode, though. I had a lot of fun with that. I think it was because I didn't know the shit you were going to throw at me. So it was one of those things of like, how am I going to keep this on track? And I think we did. There was a few like stumbles here and there, but overall, I think we kept it on track. And it was just a fun exercise. Like, we're going to have to find one that I can do that to you with for one
yes.
upcoming season.
Yes, for sure. As the kind of spectator, I had a lot of fun. I, and I think it's a fun episode too. Yeah, because it was like I could hear you going, okay, here's my chance. I'm gonna tell this awesome story. Fuck, I gotta put a monkey in it. God damn it.
Exactly.
Oh man. So then we did Monster Squad 2 Slasher Summer, which again, not really a follow-up, but it is a sequel to a real movie, and we got a chance to play around with, Freddy and Jason and slasher characters again, like Michael Myers, and we've done episodes about all of them before, so it's kind of thematically a return. And then of course Slasher Camp 3, Killing Time, and then of course you mentioned Vengabus, 1 Week to Live, and Hot Garbage 3 with Trash Mouth, their continuation, Snobs Anonymous, again, toxic fandom. We can't get away from that one. In this case, we were the toxic ones. Tarman and the Wraith is a continuation, just in the sense that it was us doing an improv game again. Which
Yes.
we started in the episode I already mentioned, Whose Improv Is It Anyway, which we also call the Mousetrap episode, and then You Will Perish, the original one, was an improv game, where we gave ourselves some kind of weird rules we had to follow to make up a story, and I thought it worked out pretty well.
Agreed.
Yeah. Again, see, and now I'm looking at the list and I'm like, I started this by saying, hey, these are almost all like continuations of something, like, but I'm like, no, I guess not. The Great Pumpkin wasn't really like, shit. I'm like letting the air out of my balloon.
It's not necessarily continuations, more so as fulfilling things we've discussed on the show.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, we've maybe not even on the recording, but amongst ourselves, we've talked about wanting to do something with the Great Pumpkin for so long, but we're like afraid of it,
Right.
And then, in the Arnieverse of Madness, we returned to the Arnieverse. That's the first time we did the 4th part of a series, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I do feel like we brought the Arnieverse back in a way that it can be viable. Like, we can actually do more with it in other episodes.
I agree. I do think that there is, there's like an end game sort of ending, or at least an ending. As they say in the Wheel of Time, there are neither beginnings nor endings to the Wheel of Time, but it was a beginning. So it's like,
Yep.
maybe there could be an ending. But I'll go ahead and spoil a fun title that I have on my list that we absolutely have to use, and if we don't get to, I'll spoil it here, which is, there is this end game story, because we still have to explain the unified theory of Arnie.
Yes.
uh, um, Turkey Hands wasn't really a continuation of anything, except for your episode of the Boogeyman's Closet, where you covered Thanksgiving the year before,
Yes.
and I had to put it on the list.
But in a year where we were doing things either outside of our wheelhouse, or I don't want to say outside of our wheelhouse, outside of our comfort zone, or like coming back to ideas that we had touched on, we had talked about 80s movies over and over and over again in the first season. So pretty much every season we've talked about 80s movies. And when we talk about 80s movies, at some point boner comedies come up. Porky's, Police Academy, Ski Patrol, there's always a mention. Like, they at least get an honorable mention amongst the 80s
Right.
movies. And this was the first time we tackled a boner comedy.
Yeah, it's true. Oh God, so crazy. And you know what? Let me think about this too. We had, how many original episodes we had in season 4? Yeah, 1, 2, 6, I think, that were just straight originals. And this one was there you go. Turkey Hands was the only original story we told that wasn't based on anything, that wasn't a follow-up to something else. So, in the sense that like we always said we would do more original stories. Well, we did one, but that because the other ones were, the follow-up to Vengabus or Hot Garbage or Flapjack Massacre, or the next episode that came after Turkey Hands, which was when we did You'll Perish 2, and then immediately came back and did You'll Perish Next.
And see, now that right there is something that tickled me in a way I was not expecting, because when you first threw out the idea of we need to return to Jurgen, we need to do You'll Perish 2, I was excited, but I had no idea like where we were going to go. So I sat down, I listened to the episode, I came up with a bunch of ideas, and as I always do anytime we're doing a sequel, is I end up writing this like opening. Like I'm like, how are we going to get to the point where we can improv? So just mainly so it makes sense in my head. It's like, how can I see these characters and all the themes continuing on? And we kind of did that, but then we started zigging and zagging in different directions because, again, it's an improv, which ended up giving so many more ideas that we could use that didn't have, there's no room in You'll Perish 2 because it's already a long fucking episode.
Right.
And then you came up with the idea because we were talking after the show, you, me, and Sam, and texting back and forth and kind of throwing some ideas that weren't used and just like, oh, well, this was originally what I was thinking, or this was what I was thinking, throwing those out there. And then you were just like, all right, fuck it. You know what? Let's do a third one as our very next episode. And I was like, you crazy bastard. Just crazy enough to work.
Right? Exactly. Well, and I mentioned it in the episode, but I was just so bummed that some of the ideas we were talking about after the fact that they didn't end up in the episode. It's just like the same thing I was talking about with that Tales from the Cryptness episode, where I was like, oh, like we thought of that one thing and then I couldn't put it in, and then I started thinking about, well, what if we could put it in? Like what if we could go back and do it? So I was like, fuck, okay, we gotta do another one. I wasn't planning on doing You'll Perish Next. I wasn't planning on putting it on the schedule for next year, but I was like, well, fuck, okay, I'll put it on the schedule. But I was like, shit, we already have a lot of Christmas ideas, for next season already. One for sure that I know we want to do because another piece of trivia here is we didn't bump any episodes from the schedule this season except for one, and it was the only one that was kind of penciled in, and then we were like, nah, let's just do it next year. And so I was like, all right, cool, so there's our Christmas special for next year, and then there's literally 3 others that were on there as maybe if we feel like doing these ones too, and now there's like 5. But I was like, no, I don't want to wait that long. Like I'm excited about the ideas now. They're fresh in our head now. And then, yeah, to your point, so I was like, well, fuck it. Let's just do it anyway. Like, we do all kinds of stuff like that with the podcast. Like, with Turkey Hands, it was like such a stupid idea that, that shouldn't have been anything more than just like a dumb comment. And I'm like, nope, we're fucking doing it anyway.
And it just happened to work out where the following weekend after we recorded that, because I'm never off on weekends, but it was like it just happened to work out perfectly where I was off and you and Sam were both available. So it's like, fuck, let's pencil it in now. Let's do this. And it was a blast. Like, it was a whole lot of fun. It's also the first time that I finished a thumbnail piece of art before you were done editing, because usually I'm like, I just need a couple more days, Josh. I just need a couple more days.
Yeah. I know. I'm usually bugging you. I'm like, it's coming out on Friday. Are you done yet?
And I'm like, crap, I'm still working. This time I was so jazzed about it. And I think it was hilarious too, because you and I discussed the cover art, and like you had no idea what I was picturing. I had no idea what you were picturing. And then when we discussed it, it was like, holy shit, that was exactly what we were both thinking. Like, we were both kind of picturing the same image. So it was like, hey, it was meant to be.
Absolutely. Well, because I was also thinking originally that I would draw the thumbnail for You'll Perish Next, just because you had just done You'll Perish 2 and Turkey Hands, and not that long before that, Tarman and the Wraith. And I think this season actually you drew the most thumbnails than other seasons, because you did Flapjack Massacre also. So I was like, oh, like just to take the burden off, I was like, I've always wanted to draw one of the thumbnails. I can draw. I don't, do it that often.
Absolutely.
I had intended to do the thumbnail for Hot Garbage 3 Trash Mouth, but just ran out of time. And I was happier in the long run letting Tessie Trashmouth live in imagination rather than actually drawing it, but I know what she looks like,
Absolutely.
But I was like, I'll just hang on to that. I'll hang on to my first thumbnail, my debut for next season, because then you were like, well, I was just going to do this, like, skull in the snow thing. And I'm like, me too. And you were like, wait a second, here's my thumbnail. And I'm like, I was going to do the same thing just from a different angle. And I was like, well, fuck, you just finish the trilogy. You got to do all three of them,
And now, I have the on my TikTok account for anyone that's not following Zarakis on TikTok. I did a compilation of all three images drawn back to back. Like, so it's like, and of course, because the horse skull, it's Thunder Horse by Death Clock is the music, which I was like, yes,
nice. Oh God, I love it. So. Oh God. Okay, real quick, let me just throw a couple of facts and figures out here, and I think we can probably, wrap this one up. Let's take a quick look here at season 4. Like I said, we did 25 episodes. I think we did more holiday episodes this year than we have done before. No, we tied with last year, because last year we had Festivus in there too. So, we had one extra one. We did our 100th episode this year, and then, made that into a two-parter, because again, how do you make a 100th episode, like a single episode, even better? You do 200th episodes, because fuck it, why not? Let's see here. So we usually start with some kind of a property, like a movie or something like that, movie, TV show, something like that. So this was the first season that we started with a book when we did the Where's Waldo movie, which again is like, of all the things to start with, of all the books we could have picked, it's so weird.
Such a weird one.
Yeah. I think that one and Turkey Hands like take the prize for the weirdest episodes.
Yeah, and really it was only because like I said, I saw Seth Rogen say that they couldn't write a Where's Waldo movie, and I'm like, all right, well, fucking hold my beer. We're gonna write a Where's Waldo movie.
Exactly. Come listen to Raise Rentals. We'll teach you how it's done, Mr. Screenwriter. Oh God,
Mr. Fancy Pants.
So like I said, we did 6, I guess, original ones. Of course, we have one based on a song, because every Venga Bus is technically based on a song. So we did one of those.
Yep.
Only one video game this year, which of course was Mortal Kombat, and then of course a meme, right? And then for Hot Garbage. So that means, as usual, most of the things that we start with are movies, in this case 11 times, and then most of the things that we end up with end up also being movies. And so this time we ended up with, out of 19 improvs, 18 of them were movies. One of them I had separated for movie and TV, because Tarman and the Wraith was supposed to be a TV special, and the Wraith would have just been like a straight to video sequel movie. And then one time we ended up envisioning a TV show, which was in the Arnieverse of Madness, in a la Quantum Leap.
I love that.
That was again one of those weird things where it was like, I really wanted to do it, but we hadn't nailed the linchpin until you came up with the Quantum Leap, gimmick, and I was like, oh, I'm in, I'm totally in. Like, I don't even know what the plot is. We're doing this shit. Let's see. So we started with horror. We started with something that would be classified as horror. I guess 5 times, depending on how you look at it. Most of the things that we started with, it's hard to classify sometimes, because sometimes it's like more than one genre, like that we mix together. But most of the things that we started with were either horror or comedy, or we did a lot of sci-fi just in general this year with, Escape from Earth and Space Vietnam. Even the movies that we riffed off of were a lot of sci-fi. And we ended with, let's see, out of 19 improvs, 12 of them were horror. No surprise there.
Of course.
And then the other 7 were 2 sci-fi and 5 of what I classified as action, right? That would be like Harry and the Hendersons 2 and Escape from Earth, which I guess is also sci-fi, right? So we did all sci-fi, action, and horror this year. It's pretty cool. And let me
Nice.
see. Anything else I want to share? I mentioned the shortest episode, the shortest improv episode was Slasher Camp 3, but the shortest episode all in was Loud, Confident, and Wrong, our 17th rental rant, which was only 55 minutes. But again, those ones
Oh,
tend to
damn.
run short. But even that, the shortest of all the rental rants of Super Gushers was still almost an hour long. So,
Right.
they tend to run long. Even this episode right here, like when we started recording today, I was like, I don't know, like let's talk about Christmas in the episodes. We can do it in what, like an hour maybe? That's hilarious.
Yeah. And we both were like, oh, hell yeah, we could do that. But as we always do, we get to talking, and next thing you know, several hours have passed.
I know, right? As my wife would say, again with the yapping. Oh God. So yeah, our longest episode, as I mentioned, was The Great Pumpkin. So this is interesting. We have about 7,000 total downloads all time on Podbean, right? Which is where we host the podcast, which is we had a lot when we came out of the gate in season 1, and it's been kind of going downhill, but not exponentially, and I still think that's a pretty good number. But when I looked at like Spotify and Apple and YouTube, it's hard to quantify some of them, but it gets us over 9,000 total, which I think is pretty exciting, for a couple of guys that have a small fan base of people that we probably mostly know in person.
Right. But no, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited with that. And then in terms of individual episodes, we always talk about which ones seem to be the most popular versus seem to be the least popular. So just looking at the statistics that I was able to slap together quickly today, Harry and the Hendersons 2, Hardcore Harry, somehow is the most popular episode based on statistics, downloads, and plays. So I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that one.
I feel like it got the same thing as the Dave and Chainsaw Massacre, summer school sequel, where there's just a lot of people that like Harry and the Hendersons, and just the idea of like, oh shit, a sequel to Harry and the Hendersons, what are they doing? Like, I feel like curiosity is going to pull people in on that one.
Yeah.
And same thing with the Dave and Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's one of those things where there's not a lot of people that talk about summer school. So when you see something where it's like, hey, this is summer school, it's like, whoa, shit, what are they doing? Like, I want to know.
Yeah, exactly, right. Sometimes I think that people just Google stuff, like you mentioned, like they're like, hey, did they ever make a sequel to Harry and the Hendersons? And someone Googles Harry and the Hendersons too, and like, hey, look, we came up,
Right.
So yeah, speaking of summer school too, the David Chainsaw Massacre, that was the most popular episode from season 1, followed by the Vengabus of Death in season 2, Tales from the Crypt Mist in season 3, no surprise there, but Harry and the Hendersons too, like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess you can join the club, you can sit at the big boy table. Nothing wrong with that episode. Right. That was a lot of fun. In terms of least favorite, as far as least popular in terms of statistics, again, season 1 was Had Fun Storming the Castle, which was one of our rental rants. Season 2, Centipede the Motion Picture, still kind of a bummer because I thought that was really fun.
I like that one.
Yeah, me too. Season 3 was the Tainted Love rental rant, and season 4. So as of right now, I don't have any statistics on You'll Perish Next. And You'll Perish 2 is new enough that You'll Perish 2 actually appears to be the least popular episode. But like I said, I think it hasn't been out that long, so I don't want to count it. So setting those ones aside, does the combat have to be so mortal? Appears to be at the bottom. Sorry.
Though, that makes sense to me, honestly, because first of all, let's be honest, there's not a lot of people out there that love the Mortal Kombat movies. There's a lot of 90s kids that love that first movie, myself included. I don't think there's been a good one since. I'm hopeful for the next one, but
right.
I don't want to hold out too much hope because I was hopeful for the last one and it disappointed me, so... Yeah. I can understand why people would be like, yeah, Mortal Kombat movie, fuck that. So.
Right. No, and again, I think it has a lot to do with people just, Googling stuff. People listen to us because, they're already fans, or because they're looking in their podcatcher or podcast app looking for something, and maybe we pop up. I did that recently, actually. A Boogeyman's Closet episode popped up. I don't remember what the search was, so don't hold me to it, but I remember thinking like, oh, cool. Like, look, you're right there. You're like third down when I was looking for some word.
Mhm.
So that was kind of cool. I think that probably happens. And again, I think people just Google things and then we come up, or they go to YouTube and they type in Harry Henderson's 2 or whatever and see if there's a movie available and we come up. But sometimes I think the titles that are fun, like Does the Comet Have to Be So Mortal, they don't really do us any favors in terms of search results.
Right.
Had I just called that Mortal Kombat 2 Electric Boogaloo or something, like maybe it would have come up, but whatever. Sometimes the art must stand on its own.
Completely agreed.
Oh, Mike, so this has been a much longer episode than I expected, but I always appreciate the chance to, talk about something that we love, which is our own podcast. I mean, Christmas. Sorry, Christmas.
I mean, you're not wrong on either account.
Hey, we did a whole episode where I was trying to like let the whole world know that we're kind of a couple of assholes, but like I don't know, they keep listening anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's loud, confident, and wrong all the time.
All the time.
And Snobs Anonymous,
Yeah. I know, right? My name is
But-
Josh, and I'm a
but-
snob.
Yeah, my name is Mike, and I'm always wrong. But no, I do think that that this show is probably the most fun that I have recording podcasts, and that's not to say that I don't have a lot of fun on other podcasts, but this is one of those shows where I get to try to tell stories. And as you know, I mean, your and my friendship was built on a love of telling stories.
Mhm.
We started talking because we loved comic books, and we were talking about our own comic book ideas, and being able to have this outlet to just come up with random stories and just spit it out there into the world is a lot of fucking fun. It's and again, for me, there's not a ton of structure to it. Like the Boogeyman's Closet, there's a lot of structure. I have a lot I have to do before and a lot I have to do afterward, and I still have a blast doing every episode.
Oh
Count
yeah.
Creepy had again, there's not much I have to do, but like usually you don't have to have the ideas ahead of time of what we're going to talk about, any game we're going to play, et cetera, et cetera. But like with this one, it's just, hey, what would you do if you were given the keys to the kingdom for this movie? Or like, and I don't want to give away anything that we've talked about for next season, but there's some bangers in there of things where you're just like, hey, what if? And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Okay, we got to do that one. Like,
You crazy bastard.
that's crazy enough to work. I'm in. Yeah.
And that's another good segue because I don't want to talk too much about the next season. I already couldn't help myself and like mentioned one of the episode titles, and I'm like, no, stop it, don't say anymore. But I get so excited because I'm like, oh, I want to tell people. It's like when a new TV show comes out and you've seen an episode and someone else hasn't seen it yet. You're like, oh, goddamn, I want to talk about it. It's like because the next part of the story.
Right.
We have some crazy stuff planned for next year. This year, season 4 has been the season of the series and returning to the well and continuing. Next season, it's going to be the series of just going to weird places.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, it is.
yeah, we've got a lot of crazy stuff planned. We're going to do some things we've never done before. We are going to play with the format, do some more games, break some traditions. We spent the whole season, doing things like I said we've done before, returning to series and traditions and formats. Next season we're going to break all that. We're going to start off differently than we've ever started off, and I'm hoping to do some really fun stuff. But yeah, right now the episode list of just the ones that we for sure want to do, it's probably season 5 and 6 combined, honestly. And there's a bunch more after that we were like, it's strong enough to put on the list. Let's just find a place to put it.
Yup. Because I know you and I have both sent those ranting messages back and forth of like, dude, I got a great idea. Blah, 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 blah. We just throw it out there and it's like, ah, shit. Okay, put that on the list.
Right, exactly. Well, and when we did the schedule for season 4, we mentioned a lot how, we would put it on the schedule and we stuck to it. And we pretty much did. I mean, there really was only that one other Christmas special that we bumped. And we bumped it even before we decided to do You'll Perish next, which was just, out of the blue, like, fuck, let's just do it. But we for the most part, we did everything that we wanted to do. We stuck a couple of things in that weren't planned that were, we wanted to put something out like Young, Dumb, and Full of Opinions, doing a rental rant because we were both kind of sick and pissed off. And, it was a couple of things that we just decided, like the Where's Waldo movie, literally like a week before we recorded it. And it was just like bonkers enough that we had to make it happen, And so
I was literally just sitting at work and I got annoyed when I saw him say that, yeah, it's not possible to do. I'm like, motherfucker. Hey, Josh, we're going to do this.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, sure. Because like I said before, sometimes it's like, no, like we have a schedule, we have to do this, and this. And sometimes it's like, you know what? Fuck it. We're doing it. Like, whatever.
Exactly.
So we did everything we wanted to do in season 4. All the stuff that we really planned, we had to coordinate like threequels and, fourquels and crossovers. And it's like, okay, we did it. We pulled it off. I'm super excited about it. And season 5 is just going to be wild. So I hope that all the hype keeps all of you listeners out there interested and that you come back, because we are going to take a little bit of a break over the holidays. As we do after this episode, it'll be at least several weeks before we record again, let alone put an episode out. So I don't know exactly how long that break will last. I know that we will have to end it in order to start hitting some of like the holiday and seasonal milestones we want to hit for some of these season 5 episodes. But, we'll probably see you again sometime in late January.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, with that, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. We'll skip the plugs this episode. Go check out all the other great projects at redpantheon.com. There's a whole list of amazing podcasters and artists and musicians, all sorts of great projects there. And I'm going to try to do some cleanup over the holidays and put some focus on promoting some of those other projects, some of our compatriots in the Rad Pantheon, the other Rad Panthers. Shout out to all the Rad Panthers. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a friend. And anything else, Mike, from you before we go?
Yeah, before we wrap it up, since it is our last episode of the year, I just want to take the time to say there have been several people who I know have listened to the show in the past, but several people who have really kind of become regular listeners this season and have not only been listening to all the stuff we put out, but have been taking the time to like reach out and tell me like what they liked, what they didn't like, what they thought worked, what didn't work. And I love getting that type of feedback. I love knowing that people out there are listening. And so I just want to say thank you to all the people that are listening, and a special thank you to all those people who have taken the time out of their day to reach out to me or reach out to Josh. Let us both know what you think and what you like and what you want more of. And it truly means a lot to me that, we are enjoyed enough for you to write those emails or to call us up or, meet me in person and be like, hey, by the way, that means a lot. So thank you, all of our listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll second that. I appreciate that. Most of the feedback I get is through Mike. So, keep funneling that in so I can hear it too secondhand. And I hope more people, will let us know. But also, a New Year's resolution for you and I, Mike, is let's do the same. Let's all do a better job of giving each other feedback and notes and constructive criticism. And just a pat on the back once in a while. It definitely always helps, and it helps keep all of us motivated to keep going and keep making all of these podcasts and songs and art pieces and everything. So yeah, again, thanks for mentioning that, Mike. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. As always, thanks for tuning in. Leave us a comment. Like we said, drop us a line, leave a podcast rating. Let us know what we should improve next season, next year. And with that, I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
and we have to go watch Christmas movies and drink too much eggnog. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where those treetops listen and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow, the snow.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.